What's up, guys? It's your girl Q the Astrologer. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, and share with all your friends. I wanted to make a quick little video again, another candid video. Maybe I'll name this series Candid Q, because with some planets right now in retrograde, it's having me to reflect a lot. So I remember also doing a Cash App Live, and I had sort of steered off and veered off into talking about Pluto square Pluto, and that's what I want to talk about in this video today. So for those of you that are Pluto and Scorpio generation people, particularly those of you from 0 to 7 degrees of Pluto and Scorpio, you were likely affected more during the Pluto ingress into the sign of Aquarius, because if you're a Pluto and Scorpio generation, then that would mean that Pluto and Aquarius was squaring your natal Pluto and Scorpio. Now, the reason why I want to make this video is because I want to help you guys navigate this transit, Pluto square Pluto, and also I want to help you guys navigate Pluto in Aquarius retrograde squaring your Pluto in Scorpio. So if you have Pluto and Scorpio, I want to say around July 25th or July 26th, Pluto will no longer be squaring your natal Pluto in Scorpio. Pluto in Aquarius will no longer be squaring your natal Pluto in Scorpio in or around July 25th or 26th, okay? So during this time period with Pluto retrograding in the sign of Aquarius, if you were trying to further your finances or find a new job or get new opportunities or figure out what you want to do in terms of adding on more money so that you can secure your future, now would be the time to get it done. Now would be the time to, number one, figure out how you need to secure your future, because that's what the Pluto square Pluto transit is all about. Figuring out ways to secure your future. And I don't want to keep using these like buzzwords, but like I want to say like just, or buzz phrases like take your power back and all that. I feel like that's so like, everyone says that. So I'm trying to find ways of like speaking about this in a more genuine fashion in all my videos. The next couple months I'm going to be doing this. I want you guys to figure out ways right now with Pluto in retrograde of how you can secure your financial future. Just simple as that, so that you don't feel powerless, so that you don't feel like you're in fear, and so that you don't feel stressed out or get stressed out or feel that the energy is intense, because that is what happens when Pluto squares your natal Pluto. So for example, if during the, sorry, and that's my chair squeaking. So if during the Pluto square Pluto transit, you were feeling like you were powerless, that somehow the rug was getting ripped up underneath your feet, like you were losing your prestige, you were losing your power in your career, and you wanted to try something else, or even in your relationship, anywhere in your life where you felt like you were losing power and you were trying to create some sort of transformation and nothing was happening, right now is the time to try again with Pluto in retrograde. Right now is the time to try again, meaning if you need to figure out what career you need to go into or what strategy you need to do, or even just right now applying for jobs, getting your CV out there, you need to start doing that right now while Pluto's in retrograde. Now, this is not a transit that is going to be necessarily easy once Pluto starts to station direct again, because it's going to go back, Pluto's going to retrograde back to the sign of Capricorn. It's going to provide some ease for us Pluto and Scorpio generation people up in the fall, but then it's going to station direct again. So I really want you guys to use, because Pluto goes retrograde 6 months out of the year, okay? 6 months. So now is the best time with Pluto in retrograde in the sign of Aquarius for you Pluto and Scorpio generation people to start figuring out secondary income streams, or figuring out how you're going to secure your finances, because maybe those old ways, those Capricorn ways they're not working anymore with Pluto and Aquarius. I know I found that, and I'll tell you guys a story about that. So here it goes. Because here's the thing, as I started to reflect during this time period with all these planets other than Pluto that are in retrograde, because retrograde energy does cause you to reflect and think about everything. So I had a situation during Pluto square Pluto back in like March and February, where I felt like my power and my prestige and my fame, quote unquote, in my career was being taken away, or I was being placed into the background. And what I want to say about that is this. The key thing that I've learned from that time period, as I reflect on it now, is that I should not have been involved in those particular projects. I should not have been involved in those projects where I felt like I was pushed to the background, or I was getting paid less, and I was not being treated fairly or treated in a way where I don't have experience, and just kind of like left to be unseen. That is what I've come to realize in this time period, right now, current, present day. And what I realize now, out of all the downloads that I was receiving those months ago, I now understand that what's beneficial right now in the summer is for me to figure out how I'm going to proceed forward once Pluto starts to move direct again. How am I going to secure my financial future? Now, what exactly happened? So in my career, again, astrology is not my career. Astrology is more of a past life field for me. And my career is in fine arts. And so what I started to realize in February and March was that, again, I felt like I was powerless and I wasn't making a ton of money. Because I wasn't making a ton of money in my career, it just like shifted all of a sudden because of the Pluto square Pluto energy. I started to do jobs in my career that were giving me less resources, less money, and there were also lies as well. There was a lot of manipulation as well. I was being manipulated into situations, into projects that were not benefiting me and that were not giving me what I was worth, period. In February, I worked on a project where, of course, I don't ever apply for anything that is considered background or where I'm going to not be seen, because that's not my North Node. My North Node is in the 5th house, the Leo house, and I'm supposed to be the lead, just period. And I already know that, and I don't settle for anything less than that. But I was lied to in the process of being put on that project. And then a month later, I was lied to again with another project where I was told I was going to be paid a certain amount and there was going to be a second day of shooting, and it wasn't. And I was paid a lot less, and I worked a ton of hours. The amount of hours that I worked did not equal out to how much I should have been paid. But I was unfortunately lied to get put onto that project. Or I should say, I was lied to so that I could commit to that project because they really needed me. In those two projects, I was going to walk away from the first one in February because it wasn't paying enough. And they also got caught up in their lie by sending me an email with my name that said I was going to be playing this role. And I was like, I'm not playing that role. So have a good day. And they actually came back to me and lied to me and told me that, no, that was a mistake on our part. You actually are going to be the lead role, and here's what we're going to pay you. But when I got to set after 2 days, I realized that wasn't the case, right? That wasn't the case. And it was very disheartening. I'm not going to lie. Like, it felt really disheartening. And then I know that the people on set actually, the other talent, realized that something was wrong. They realized something was wrong because they look at me, right? They saw like, wow, and then, I started talking to people on set, and they like look at my Instagram, they're like, wow. Even a lot of the talent on the set in February were asking me questions of how do you have any advice for models, for people who want, because they were like newer models. I've never seen these people. And I guess maybe they wanted to use those faces, and that's okay. I just wish that at that time, the people in production were honest with me about the direction that they wanted to go in, instead of deliberately lying, manipulating me into signing on to this job, knowing that I wasn't going to be lead, and so that's why I have an issue with that. Because again, with the South Node in Libra and me having a Libra Mercury, there's gonna be a lot of that this year for me. I already know. With the South Node transiting over my Mercury, there's gonna be a lot of people lying to me. And to be completely honest with you guys, I didn't realize that until March, when we had the eclipse in Libra. And I realized, like, wow, I've been lied to, I was lied to a handful of times in March, and also that project in February, because Mercury rules communication, and my Mercury is at 14 degrees of Taurus, so I got lied to a lot about what people valued and how much they were going to pay me and all these things. So that's why it's so important too to look at the degrees of all the placements. But anyway, in March, I had a similar situation happen where I was lied to about how much money I was going to get paid versus how many hours I was going to be needed on set, and there was going to be a second shoot date. And it really upset me. It really upset me. However, in hindsight is 22. I look back at it and I'm like, I'm glad that I went through those things, because here's the thing. I have walked away with the understanding that I was not meant to be a part of those projects. And the only reason why I was because I didn't have a backup plan. And that's what Pluto square Pluto was forcing me to do. Maybe you guys can attest to this. It's forcing you to apply for jobs, get your CV ready, all those things, get your CV out there, try this, try that, try different things, go back to hobbies that you used to do. Yes. In hindsight 22, I look back at it and I'm like, I wasn't supposed to be a part of those two projects, just period. And now I'm so grateful that those things happened, because again, the squares create tension and conflict, but the result of the tension and conflict actually helps us as individuals, because we're able to not run into those same roadblocks again. We can see it, we can recognize it, and we know what to do because we've been through it before. Now, getting back to a backup plan, I want to also stress to you guys, just because Pluto is squaring your natal Pluto and you feel like you might have to go in a different direction, please be mindful of if that direction is going to be suitable for you long term. And I say that because the Pluto square Pluto is a transit, and it's just that, a transit, which means that it's not going to last very long. It's a transit to try to help you figure out your financial future, maybe redo your resume, try some new things. But I want to tell you guys to be mindful, because if you know from your birth chart, from your numerology, from whatever it is that you look at, that you're supposed to be doing something in this lifetime, do not allow the Pluto square Pluto transit to steer you off course, okay? Please don't, because it's a transit, which means it's not going to last very long. Pluto's going to move. Now, I will say that for some of you, the Pluto square Pluto transit is actually going to be initiating you into a new career for the long term, because Aquarius does rule long-term goals, long-term plans. But for others of you, it may just initiate you into a new career temporarily until you get your feet up underneath you, and you can use that income of those resources to continue to power your dream and to continue to go in the direction that you feel is best for you, and that you know is best for you according to your astrology, according to your numerology, according to your life path number, all the things. So you just have to decide and choose which side of the fence that you're on, and use your intuition, use your discernment, take whatever resonates here in this video, but ultimately it's about using your discernment, using your intuition. I know that if you guys are watching my channel, you have intuition, you have discernment, you know what's best for you. Now, I want to break this down a little bit more scientifically. We know that Pluto rules, finances, society, the economy, death and rebirth, like knocking things down to build them up again if they're on faulty foundation. And that's essentially what the Pluto square Pluto aspect is trying to initiate us Pluto Scorpio generation people to do. Now, some of us are already there, and those who are like very young, like early 30s or late 20s, they haven't reached the Pluto square Pluto aspect yet, because maybe their Pluto and Scorpio is in the second decan or the third decan. But this could be for everyone with Pluto and Scorpio, just to like get ready with this aspect, because what is going to happen is you need to be mindful of, you know, your money and your savings and your resources. Make sure that you have enough so that you won't be displaced. And if you need to go back to a certain type of career field until you get your feet up underneath you, you know, do that. Don't be afraid to do that. Now, on the other side of things, with Pluto in Aquarius ruling like friends and business partnerships, and with the square, there's conflict and tension on how you make your money, how you cultivate your resources from a job or from a business, in relation to your friends and your business partnerships. Like I said, with the Pluto square Pluto, Scorpio and Aquarius, there could be lies from business partnerships just to try to get you to build up their eighth house, if you will. Scorpio, build up their resources. Maybe, you know, like in my example with what happened to me, you know, I was lied to deliberately twice and a couple times in March, just so those people could have the situation benefit them, and there was no benefit for me. That's where the square is. That's where the tension was lying. Now, I say all that to say, because I want you to be aware that these things can happen, and I'm sure there's other things that have been happening to you guys out there. I want you to be aware of it, be aware, but don't let it discourage you. Understand that it's just a square and it's just a transit. It will pass, and it's only going to benefit you in the end, because it's going to give you more wisdom. Squares give you wisdom because it's not as easy and flowy as a trine or a sextile. You know, the trines are actually easier than the sextile. It's not like a trine. It's really going to challenge you to figure out how to best navigate situations in your life when it deals with your power, your prestige, your fame, your recognition, your finances, all those things. So look at it that way, and don't let it mind fuck you out of what you're supposed to be doing in your purpose. And I'm going to get to that right now. Now, what do I mean by like mind fuck? It could be a mind fuck because you could find yourself as a Pluto and Scorpio generation person pursuing something that you were doing for years, and then all of a sudden Pluto and Aquarius squares your Pluto and Scorpio, and you're like, damn, should I change course? That's where the mind fuck comes into place. Because again, I experienced this, right? But because I know my astrology, because I understand my North Node and what I'm supposed to be doing in this lifetime based on my life path number and all the things, and my intuition and my guides telling me which way to go, I'm not allowing the transit to play mind games with me, right? Because the thing too about this transit is in fixed signs. So we could be very fixed in nature on, okay, this isn't working, so I'm definitely going to do this. I'm not doing that anymore. No, only if you feel intuitively in your chart says that, yes, you're supposed to go in a different direction. But if you don't feel like you should be changing course, then I would recommend that you don't, no matter what anyone says, because that's like the law of intuition. The law of intuition basically states that, you know, I get quiet, we get quiet as individuals, so quiet to the point where we're silent and we no longer are talking, so that we can hear what our heart is trying to tell us, despite the opinions of others. That's the law of intuition. So be mindful of what you hear, or all the things. You know deep down inside what you want to be doing, what you need to do. And if you feel like the Pluto square Pluto energy is thrusting you in a new direction, do it. If you feel like you need to stay and do what you're supposed to do because it's your dream, then do that. Because I know that's how I feel. I feel like, no, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and this is just a transit that is helping me secure myself better in the long term, because I've had issues doing that in the past. So it's a good thing, you know.